Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I would like to talk to you about CompTIA CySA Plus certification and why I think this is the perfect time for you to take it. So in case you don't know what CompTIA is, well, pretty much they've been around forever and they have some of the best certifications in the game of cybersecurity in general. CompTIA offers multiple career paths for you in terms of from beginner to intermediate to advanced. This is a stackable certification here as well. But before we get into CySA Plus, I highly recommend you to actually take the Sec Plus. So please try Security Plus first, pass that, and then this would be considered a more of an intermediate certification, if you will. I highly recommend against starting with CySA if you don't have any other cybersecurity certifications. I may have a video out there that states what certifications I would recommend you starting with, but definitely CySA is not beginner friendly at all. If anything, I would highly encourage you to take some beginner or free courses. Please exhaust all the free options that you can to get a taste of cybersecurity initially, to see if it's something that you like. This is a field that requires you to stay on top of current things and to constantly be aware of the latest and greatest malware, how it acts, be aware of ways to protect against these attacks, because for every 10 jobs on the blue side, as they call it, there's one red team job. So most likely starting off, you'll probably be doing any type of incident response / infosec / anything SOC blue team related. So I would start with any free resources, like I've said in some of my other videos as well. Any free resources. Look at Cisco. Cisco has some incredible networking courses. I believe that you should be into networking, quite honestly, to be able to understand anything that's going on, and then get your Security Plus, and then get to CySA Plus, and then you can stack Security Plus with CySA Plus, and then with Pentest Plus, and then you have like what they would call, no, you can, or is it with Pentest Plus? I think there's a stackable version with Pentest Plus and CASP. CASP is another intermediate / advanced certification that CompTIA offers. So why this is a good time for you to take the exam? Well, the new one comes in June 2023, which means that there are so many resources out there for you to actually get plenty of very accurate test dumps. There's plenty of books, there's plenty of videos, there's plenty of, like, go on Udemy, look for courses over there, look for test dumps over there, and most importantly, read a book, any book. You go on Amazon and then look for and just buy whatever you want. Just go buy, me personally, I really have had books from Mike Chappell before, and I really like his style. I really like the way that he presents the theory, and then he also has a test section. I highly recommend you go over that. Anything Mike Chappell, my opinion, is pretty good. So those are your books. Once again, the resources are there, and I truly believe that you should be taking this exam by June 2023. Now, this is the perfect time. This is the perfect time for you to take it. Even though you're not going to get every single question that you see in these practice tests, I promise you that most of them are going to be similar to what you see what skills will you learn by taking this certification? And again, this is considered intermediate level. So intermediate level. Security operations, incident response and management, vulnerability management, reporting and communication. Based on my experience, I would tell you that security operations, incident management, and vulnerability management are pretty heavy. Reporting and communication, there are some questions in there, but it's basically CySA Plus is a mix of incident response with vulnerability management mainly, and that's my opinion. You're going to be presented with some practical questions as well. They would give you like an Nmap scan, which we'll go over in a quick second here. You have to be familiar with Nmap. You have to be familiar with vulnerability management. You have to be familiar with containment, with identifying if there's something wrong on the wire. You have to be able to know how would you respond to a threat. And how do you know all of this? Well, again, go back to the books, read the theory, do the questions, get the knowledge, take the test, get your certification. It's very, very important for you to get the knowledge and not just to do test dumps, please. Jobs that you can land with CompTIA CySA Plus: network security specialist, network security operations, security analyst, application security analyst, threat hunter, threat intel analyst, SOC analyst, security analyst, and cybersecurity engineer. The new one is going to be released. Okay, so experience recommended. Apparently, that is going to stay the same for the new CS 003 that is going to kick in June 2023. It costs about $400, but they do have promo codes out there, I'm pretty sure. So most recently, if you use what do you call it, if you use different browsers, let's just put it that way, you can get a promo code and you can, you know, save a few bucks here. I don't have a promo code for you right now, but you can find them online, I promise you. You just do a bit of a Google search and you'll see. So it's 165 minutes. The passing score is 750 up all the way up to 900. You will be tested on practical stuff as well, where it's like drag and drop. They'll give you, again, go into vulnerability management. They'll give you a vulnerability management scan, and you have to identify what is wrong. If they use a deprecated version of SSL, something to that nature. They'll give you questions regarding security operations, questions similar to, you know, what is the first thing that you do in a ransomware attack or something like that, right? Something that would make you think, what is the first action that I would take when I see this stuff on the wire? How would I contain it? And this is how you know, this is the perfect segue into incident management and incident response. How do you respond to something that is an incident, to confirm malware, to DDoS attack, so on and so forth. And with that being said, how about we do a few questions? As a sample, I selected a few questions here that I think, and these questions, you know, you can find for yourself online. These are not meant to replicate or duplicate or anything like that on the test. This is just a small batch of questions that I think kind of emulate these sections that we were just talking about here: security operations, incident response, vulnerability management, and reporting and communications. These are some of the structured questions that you can see on a test. So with that being said, let's start with the first one. In system hardening, which of the following types of vulnerability scans would be best to verify the scan device meets security policies? So SCAP, Burp Suite, OWASP, ZAP, and unauthenticated. So with that being said, in system hardening, which of the following types of vulnerability scans would be best to verify that the scan device meets security policies? So SCAP, Burp Suite, OWASP, ZAP, or unauthenticated. So right off the bat, B and C are out of the question because this is web app stuff. So you're left with unauthenticated, which is absolutely wrong. So just by the simple process of elimination, you would say SCAP. Next question. Employees of a large financial company are continuously being affected by strands of malware that are not detected by EDR tools. So EDR, you have a situation where a company is infected by malware that for whatever reason the EDR tool that they use is just not catching it for whatever reason. So when of the following is the best security control to implement to reduce corporate risk while allowing employees to exchange files at client sites? So the second part of the question is a little bit tricky because it's talking about EDR tools and malware going past EDR tools, but then they ask you what is the best security control to implement to reduce corporate risk while allowing employees to exchange files at a client side. It's a bit of a weird question. It's a bit of a curveball, but guess what? This is exactly the types of questions that you may find in the test. The second part of the question is meant to throw you off a little bit of what's actually needed, but what's actually needed is in the second part of the question. So, option A, MFA on workstations. I'm not sure how that would reduce corporate risk and allow employees to exchange files at the client side. Additional host firewall rules. EDJ environment, not really. Hard drive encryption, not really. Network access control, not really. And network segmentation. Well, I think that could be an answer, right? A financial institution's business unit plans to deploy a new technology in a manner that violates existing information security standards. That's a big no-no. So which of the following action should the CISO take to manage any type of violation? So without even looking at the options here, let's analyze the question. So they plan to deploy a new technology in a manner that violates existing information security standards. So if you're the chief information security officer and one of the business units plans to deploy a new technology that violates information security standards, who would you call first in a corporate environment? Who would you call first? You're the CISO. So you're the chief information security officer in a corporate environment. Who would you call first? Well, I would say legal, right? That would make sense to me. Keyword here, or key sentence, key phrase is in a manner that violates existing security information standards. So let's look at the options. So enforce existing security standards and controls, perform a risk analysis and qualify the risk with legal, perform research and propose a better technology, and enforce the standard permits. The best option here, if I was to put in an answer here, is perform a risk analysis and qualify the risk with legal. Moving on, a threat intelligence analyst has received multiple reports that are suspected to be about the same advanced persistent threat, the same APT. To which of the following steps in the intelligence cycle would this map? So here you have to be familiar with the intelligence cycle, and I can tell you that based on the intelligence cycle, the next step, this step actually would be the collection phase, because the analyst has already received multiple reports that are about the same APT. So this is the collection phase. And in order, if you want to be familiar with the threat intel cycle, just do a quick Google search. But again, this plays into vulnerability management and so on and so forth, and threat intel feeds. You will get some threat intel feed questions, but not too many based on my experience. Okay, let's do a SOC question. So a security analyst working in a SOC recently discovered instances in which hosts visited a specific set of domains and IPs and became infected with malware. So congratulations, you have an incident. Which of the following is the most appropriate action to take in this situation? So implement an IPS signature for the malware and update the blacklisting for the associated domains and IPs. Implement an IPS signature for the malware and another signature request to block all the associated domains and IPs. Implement a change request in the firewall settings to not allow traffic to and from the IPs and domains. And option D, implement an IPS signature for malware and a change request to the firewall settings to not allow traffic to and from the origin IP subnets and second level domains. Wow. So a pretty packed question, right? This is a pretty packed question, and without further ado, let's go back to the question. If a question seems to be too complicated or overly complicated because the way that you're interpreting the question, you have to go back and look at what do they actually ask from you. So, establishing facts. SOC recently discovered instances in which hosts visited a specific set of domains and IPs and became infected with malware. So that is your root cause. And then they ask you, what is asked of you is, which of the following is the most appropriate action? The most appropriate action to take in this situation, the situation being host visiting a specific set of domains and IPs and becoming infected with malware. In this situation, what I would recommend is to implement an IPS signature for the malware because you have a specific set of domains and IPs. So I would say implement an IPS signature for the malware and a change request to the firewall settings to not allow traffic to and from the origin IP subnets and second level domains. And that would be the most comprehensive solution, I believe, to solve this issue. So changes to firewalls in a corporation or pretty much any other company out there that has more than 2 employees, and when it's not you and your cousin, you have to go through a change request in the firewall. And this is more of, so the SecOps team in this situation would help the incident response team to basically contain at this point and remediate. It's more of a remediation rather than anything at this point in the incident. So my answer would be D. Moving on, last but not least, took a quick screenshot here of a question that I found online. Again, these questions are not meant to emulate the test. These questions are just for you to have an idea of what you can get on the test. So you will probably see a lot of Nmap scan reports, and then from here you would have to tell them, I don't know, which port is open, what are you seeing, so on and so forth, and you will be asked questions based on multiple Nmap scan reports. So for that, I would highly recommend you become extremely familiar with Nmap, and if you're not familiar with Nmap, you should get familiar with Nmap. Get familiar with the commands. You will probably get a bunch of gimmies easy questions. Gimmy's aka easy questions with Nmap switches. What is the -SS switch? What is the -O switch? So on and so forth. They might ask you about the switches that you can put on Nmap. They might ask you for sure will ask you about interpreting a scan report and selecting the appropriate option. And for example, like what is, I don't know, something about a vulnerability that you see that can be patched, so on and so forth. So please make sure that you are familiar with these things before you go into the exam, because Nmap, regardless, you should be familiar with it if you have any prior certifications, and if you're not, then please get familiar with it, because it's a pretty cool tool to this day, largely being used by pretty much everybody out there. So get yourself familiar with Nmap. That is pretty much it. This will be my suggestion to you one more time. You have until June. Try to get your CySA. Don't make this your first cybersecurity certification. At least have Sec Plus before you get into CySA Plus. But I promise you it's going to be worth it. It's technically considered a more intermediate certification, and I promise you that this cert is going to open a lot more doors for you. Once again, you don't necessarily need to do instructor-led training for this exam. I don't recommend against it, but I would be extremely comfortable with you just reading a book, doing some tests, and then show up and basically do the best that you can. Again, the voucher for this, it's just under $400. It is on the more, expensive side, if you want to call it that way, but I promise you, with all the resources that you have right now, please take advantage of this opportunity that you're being presented with, because they're going to change it to CS003, and they're going to introduce a lot more questions that are not going to be out there in a while, if you know what I mean. So take advantage of the situation. If you don't have the CySA Plus, add it to your collection, because it's always good to have an additional cert than not to have a cert, if that makes sense. So with that being said, thank you very much. We're celebrating 100 subscribers, so I hope most of you are people and not robots, but that remains to be seen. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll be seeing you in the next one.